Hey everybody, it's Aaron from Corlane Sporting Goods, and this is Hunt Hard, Talk Free. This episode is brought to you by Ballistics Custom Turrets, North America's most precise and affordable custom yardage turret. On this episode, I've got Jason Palfy and John Stewart joining us, and thank you guys for coming in for this episode. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure.
John's not as excited.
Well, I'd like to just verify something here. Like, we decided to do a podcast, and I'm like, do you really want me in on this? And they're like, well, you don't have a choice. And I'm like, okay, what's a podcast?
I did get that text.
Aaron explained it to me, still didn't get it. So I asked Marcia, and then she found some on the internet web. And then I still don't really know what it is, but I'm here.
It's strictly audio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, this will also launch on YouTube as well for those that want to listen to it on YouTube and want to see our ugly mugs.
We're going to be on the TV.
We're going to be on the Google.
On the Google
interweb.
Oh, the interweb.
Yeah.
Google later. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The World Wide Web.
Of awesomeness.
You get the AOL CD, you put it in your computer. Get on
In the computer box?
Is it the floppy or the hard drive?
I have no idea. I'm still trying to figure out my iPhone.
So getting back to why we came in today, Jason.
Because you told me I had to.
Jason, you own Riverjet Adventures.
Yep.
And Riverjet Adventures is the, correct me if I'm wrong, you've got the only license to legally run people up. Is it the Musqueam-Kachika watershed or?
Musqueam-Tashodi.
Okay.
Musqueam-Tashodi watersheds. It's the only jet boat transportation. There are other means of transportation, flight or horseback, but mine's the only jet boat transportation on the Musqueam and Tashodi watersheds.
Okay.
Into the Musqueam-Kachika Park.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And that kind of covers it, but what area does your license cover? Is it strictly one river or multiple rivers or?
Just those watersheds.
Okay.
A lot of people ask about the Gatho. The Gatho flows in, but it's classified as a creek.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it's not covered under my license.
Gotcha.
So my license covers me from a mark on the Musqueam River.
Yep.
Goes all the way up to the top of the Musqueam and then the Tashodi.
Gotcha.
Up the lakes.
How did you get into this business?
It was something when I come out of high school. I had gone on a couple jet boat hunts and I fell in love with it. I purchased my first jet boat at the age of 23 years old, and never looked back. It was all about burning gas and seeing where a guy could go. And I'd been up there a few times on my own and met the previous owner of Riverjet and thought it was a pretty cool lifestyle to do. And one day he gave me a phone call and said it was potentially for sale.
It's pretty cool that he reached out to you.
Well, there had been talks, right? Like I'd ran into him on the river numerous times, asking for help or seeing him at the boat launch or doing fuel runs at that time. And he so we had known each other.
Yeah.
And it was kind of
how he knew you could drive a boat and
he figured it out. Yeah. We always have our little battle rivals. We got a pretty good friendship over the sale of it. So
that's pretty cool.
We've never hit a rock.
Yep. And you've now been doing it for what? How many years? 3, 4, 5?
3 years.
3 years?
3 years.
Okay.
Going 2021 will be our 4th season.
Yeah, okay.
That Francis and I will have had Riverjet.
Yeah.
So
Riverjet Adventures is a business that runs from.
The actual busy part of it is the last week of July.
Yep.
Sheep hunters want to get up into the hills to the first week of October. I usually, guys want to be up there elk, moose hunting. You kind of let them pick their dates, but it's on a will that if freeze up's coming early October, it's time to go home.
Yeah.
But it's an all year round. Like there's constant phone calls, emails, questions. I thought it would be a 3-month gig.
Yeah.
It's not. It's 10.5 months. Not even. Like guys come out, it's a full 12 months.
Yeah.
After it's all said and done, guys, the regular guys that come up and do their thing, they're picking their dates. They're looking at the calendar on the boat ride on the way home.
Yeah.
They're the guys that's their it's their holiday. It's their R&R. It's what they do. It's what they love. They've been coming with Riverjet since before I owned it.
Yep.
So it's their thing. So they kind of know what they want to do. They got their hunting partners, and that's where they go.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, there couldn't be a better place to have a beer and sit by a campfire, in my eyes.
Yeah, it's a good place to spend the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. The entire fall. It's perfect.
Yeah. So,
And John, how did you get tangled up with this guy?
Well, we have a catering company, and we cater for an organization that Jason's involved with. And he was wearing a wild sheep hat at probably the first dinner we did.
Mm-hmm.
And like 2 sheep hunters. I said, "Oh, you're a sheep hunter." "Maybe. What's it to you?" So I'm like, okay, he's the real deal then. Cards
He's
to his
secretive.
chest
He's
kind of
definitely-
guy. And we worked together a bit with that, and actually the first time we went, we were smoked out.
my first season.
Yeah, your first season, and we were smoked out. We were trying to fly into a spot, we couldn't fly, and we were hanging around Fort Nelson, and we knew Jason, your wife was up there, Franny was up there.
Yeah.
And so I got a hold of him and said, "What are you doing?" "We're going to the hot springs." Well, we went to the hot springs, and then we had a birthday party in the park, went to the museum, and then when the weather's kind of calmed down, we went hunting.
Yeah.
And we haven't looked back since then.
Well, yeah, you and Marsha went for a bit, and then I joined up with you
Yeah.
when my schedule cleared up, and
And ever since then, we've been trying to hike every trail in there.
picking them. We have trail A, trail B, trail C.
Until we lose a GPS,
Yeah, until
and
we
we have
lost the
trail A
GPS.
all over again.
Yeah. So, yeah, every year just been trying to knock a valley off. I mean, people call it hunting. I call it a walkabout.
Yep.
I mean, odds of me shooting another sheep will be pretty slim, but I love seeing the country.
Yeah.
I got that next ridge syndrome.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
over there?
What's over
What's
there?
over that next
Yeah,
ridge?
what's there?
Bad
So,
case of that myself.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Tell me a little bit more about what you said there about there'll be you may not shoot another sheep, or it'll be a long time before you do. What do you mean by that?
well, my outlook on sheep is it's a premium animal. It's earned quite hard by most. You know, I mean, some people get lucky; they fall on their plate. It happens. It's the luck of hunting.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a premium animal, and it's about being there and enjoying it. It's not about the kill for me.
Yeah.
So, for me to shoot another one, it's gonna have to mean something to me. It's gonna have to be something that stands out in my eyes. That if I'm gonna put that on the wall, I want it to be like, yeah.
So there's going to have to be quite a story behind it, or it'll have to be something spectacular.
Yeah, something, right? I mean, lots of guys can shoot a 160 class ram over and over again, but I can't do that. To me, that's not sheep hunting. That's sheep
Killing.
And
Well, and I'm going to have to put the firing pin back in his gun, too.
after I hit that piece of paper barely. So yeah, that's my outlook on sheep hunting. Is it's an animal that only exists here in British Columbia, and I mean, there's other ways of keeping sheep on the mountain, but that's my personal way.
You don't have to kill one every year when you're up there.
No, I don't.
Successful sheep hunt's not a dead sheep.
No, I mean to see sheep, to see legal rams, to see them doing what they're naturally doing is just something to be in awe of.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and that was one thing that, for those that aren't aware out there, these are the two guys that I was on my sheep hunt with, which I still haven't released the video because John hasn't taken the time to come in and film with me the voiceover. But no, because it's one of those things that's tough to release, that it's so personal and there's so much involved in it that do I feel like sharing it with the world and stuff too. So, but I mean, going up there with you guys was probably, and like you said, the whole idea of sheep hunting versus sheep killing. What we saw on our trip, the number of sheep, a number of animals that we saw, and just being able to see the animals, and then have the discussions on when we're looking at rams and is it legal, is it not, and you take the time, you put the time in, and then had we chose to, we could have continued on and seen what else was out there and pursued other ones had we wanted to. But again, you guys were kind of all of the same mindset that it's not just about getting out there and killing a sheep. And that was kind of an aha moment for me too.
Yeah.
Because it's, when you think of moose hunting and elk hunting, you just, if you get a chance to shoot a legal one, you shoot it.
You're right.
Well, it's definitely not a meat hunt.
No,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
phenomenal meat though.
It is.
It is.
I gotta say.
Yeah, it's knockout meat, but it's,
You're not filling the
not
freezer.
no.
No.
You're filling a couple grocery bags.
If you put 3 guys on a sheep hunt and they're, let's say, 3 to 4 days back to the mode of transportation,
You'll eat most of it.
they'll put a good dent in it.
We have eaten almost the whole sheep on a hunt.
Yeah,
2 couples went. No, actually, your uncle.
yeah.
I think we got out of there with about 15 pounds of meat.
Wow.
The only sheep hunt I've ever gained weight on.
Yeah. The big guy on the wall up here, he ate that entire thing on his 30-day trip because he didn't pack enough, like it was his first trip, and he didn't pack enough anything, any food.
Yeah.
And he thought he'd live off the land and live off the water and stuff, and lost a lot of weight and ate the entire sheep and
Survived.
yeah,
Yeah.
made it and changed things up for the following year. But
A little bit harder to do nowadays.
yeah,
I mean, well, just laws and restrictions. You know, you got to be able to show something.
yeah.
You
Make
know,
sure you didn't just cut the head
yeah.
off and come out.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, we got pretty good technology now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's give the officers a storyline.
Yeah.
You know, it helps with them doing their job.
Pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and even when the one that I shot there, the damaged meat, when it rolled and rolled and rolled and all the bloodshot meat that we took every ounce that we could take, but then there was some that was so far damaged, but we took lots of pictures of it.
Yeah.
So when we came out,
Yeah.
if we needed to, we could have showed it.
Yeah.
But overall, it was, I wouldn't want to leave any behind. It's
No.
amazing.
Yeah, well, for sure.
And for anyone out there that has never had sheep, if you get the chance to go on a hunt, keep all the fat.
Mm-hmm.
Which I never would have thought, but John was arm wrestling everyone for it.
Yeah.
To cook it all over the fire on a stick and eat it all.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yep. So, John, since we haven't had you on a podcast yet, and you guys are always welcome to come back anytime down the road. Podcasts are tons of fun. Sit around and
We'll see if that invitation stands when
at the
this
end
is
of
over.
it. Give us a little background on how you got tied up in this world, whether it's with Corlane's or just the outdoor world. I mean, tell us a bit about yourself.
So I came from a family of trappers, commercial fishermen, back in the day, market duck hunters, just a hunting fanatic. And when I moved to Dawson Creek, I was in the sporting goods industry. I was a gun rep and pro staff for a few different companies. And then I met you and your family, and they sort of adopted me. And with the ties with the gun industry, this was just a fit. I mean, next thing you know, we were in Toronto and Edmonton and all over the place for trade shows. And,
Yep.
And yeah, here we are now.
Yeah, exactly. Doing a podcast. Yeah, John's gone down and represented Corlane's at a few buying shows and a few selling shows, and
And I've gone
works.
with Jason to trade shows with Riverjet. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I used to do 17 sporting good trade shows, hunting related trade shows a year.
Oh, wow.
Hunting and shooting from Vegas to Montreal to all over.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And now, the meat doctor. Let's
Yeah,
get a plug in
now-
for the meat doctor.
Now catering, yeah.
Yeah. If you're looking for the best smoked meat in the area, in the Peace region, call John. Look up the meat doctor.
Yeah.
We can post your phone numbers and Instagram and whatever other social media platforms you're running.
And when COVID ends, we'll get right back after it.
No kidding. Crazy.
Yeah.
But that was nice this year because it put me in the mountains for 5 weeks.
Tell us about that.
Well, the COVID hit, and I thought, if I'm going to go broke, I'm going to do it with a gun in my hand. So I knew it was only
Just
a
like you
matter
said,
of time
matter
before
of
that
time.
Knocking the ram over.
Yeah. Both my wife and I spent 5 weeks in the mountains. She did a 2-week horse trip, and then we did a 3-week sheep hunt together. Got home, did my laundry. The next morning, I got a phone call at 10, and at 2 that day, we were gone again and back on another 2-week sheep hunt. So it's been somewhere between 7 and 9 weeks of hunting straight this year.
That's awesome.
It's been a good year.
Yeah.
Pretty fortunate, not fortunate, pretty strategic working for yourself to be able to do that and set up
yeah.
your career or your careers, because there's multiple, to allow you to fall off to hunt.
Yeah, I book everything around hunting. No getting around it. We had a couple wanted to book a wedding 2 years ago, and they met up and they were pretty eager to book. And I said, "Well, what's your date?" They said September 10th. And when I stopped laughing, I was like, "No, really? What's your date?" And they're like, "No, it's September 10th." I'm like, "I'm sorry, I can't do it. Like, that's my one window of the year that I go."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, where are you going?" And I'm like, "It doesn't matter. I'm going hunting."
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, can't you go hunting another time?" And I said, "Well, can't you get married another time? Like, we'll do the next one." Like, I shouldn't joke around about that. We do take it serious, but there is a little window there where, and you don't want me there. My brain's not there. My mind and my heart are up on the mountains.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And to get back to the meat doctor, which you're running now, we had the pleasure of booking you for our wedding before there was a meat doctor.
Yeah, you kind of, well, booking me. You forced
We didn't
me. Like this podcast, you didn't give me a choice.
What was it? I should know this. The year
was a while ago.
2014 we'll go with?
Yeah,
I think it's
sure.
2014. Yeah. When we got married.
Conned me into that one.
That a cooler full of beer and a bunch of smokers set up, and you took care of all the meat.
And that's what brewed that business. People knew we could cook, and we started doing it just out of necessity, like what you had there. You were kind of in a jam and needed food for a lot of people right away, and the business just grew out of that. And luckily it did, to the point where we can book what we want to book, right?
Yeah. And pre-COVID, you were setting up to be able to do double events same weekends, right?
Well, pre-COVID, we were double booked right into 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, and we've got stuff booked in 2022. So yeah, this was a pretty big kick in the ass.
Yeah. You invest the money in more equipment, more everything, and then...
Yeah, well, you and I brought back a new catering rig.
Yeah, the rat wagon.
We bought a rat rod for the catering company.
Yeah.
Jason and we got it at the Abbotsford trade show when we were down there. The Abbotsford hunting show or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Loop back through the Okanagan to pick it up.
Yeah, got here, parked it, and was 10 days later, the lockdown started. Like,
because we were in Abbotsford for the Trade X.
Yeah.
And COVID was a thing. And they did the trade show. And
Were people masked up at that point?
No,
Okay.
no, nothing at all yet.
Yeah.
It was almost a joke then.
Yeah, and people were talking about 14-day quarantine, and basically, like, we drove all night. We stopped in the Okanagan, and a friend of mine had loaded up the truck and brought it from Kelowna to Kamloops for us. So we just had to make a short detour, and we drove all night, and Monday morning, by the time we were back up north here, COVID was a real thing.
Yeah. Like by the time we got here.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Wow.
So it's
that's the way it goes.
Yep.
We could jump right into that. I will skip a few questions because we're talking about COVID and how has COVID affected Riverjet Adventures?
Well, we were pretty unsure at the beginning part because BC Parks had shut down everything. But come the end of it, the BC Parks opened up, and because I'm not a guide, I'm strictly transportation, and I'm limited to BC resident.
Yep.
So they can travel amongst their own province. Mm-hmm. They can come up and see me. I mean, there was recommendations to follow, but those are recommendations. And my numbers actually increased. A lot of guys, the number of groups that came hunting were pretty close to the same.
Okay.
But instead of a group of 2, their buddy tagged along. So now it was a lot of groups of 3. It was a lot of groups of 4 that just tagged along because guys wanted to get out. Guys were cooped up since March when this all set in, and all of a sudden come August, September, when hunting rolled around, they were like, hey, can I join? So for the whole month of July, right before sheep season started, I was getting numerous calls. Can this buddy join? And it's
So do you feel that they weren't working because of COVID, or they just needed to get out?
I think a lot of guys didn't maybe do their regular holidays. Like you think of the average working person, they probably do a summer holiday with their kids when they're out of school.
Yeah.
I know my kids were done March 14th and didn't go back until September.
Spring break. It was a very long spring break.
It was. So I mean, and you couldn't go anywhere. Like, I mean, you could, but you couldn't. Where a lot of people might have done a spring break to Disneyland, or the kids got out of school in June and might have went to Disneyland or on some kind of a holiday.
Yep.
That wasn't feasible this year. So a lot of home renos, and I think, Dad wants to get away on this trip type of thing. And there was a few father-sons.
Yeah.
They just, I had one gentleman that joined up, and he was a father-son that it was his graduation. I mean, they're like, you couldn't take him anywhere, you do anything else. So they went on a hunting trip for 10 days, the two of them.
That's pretty cool.
So I think it was a combination of a little bit of everything adding in. So it was good that way. It was good for our business. It rolled.
Well, I read somewhere this spring that BC resident bear licenses the sales had doubled.
Wow.
Like, I forget don't quote me on the numbers, but it was like 1,800 and 3,600 a normal year compared to this year.
Yeah. That's just on a bear hunt.
That's just the spring bear hunt. Well,
even hunting licenses were
way
higher.
up.
Yeah.
We, excuse me, we as Corlanes were pretty concerned when we really had to hammer down and figure out, what are we doing? Are we closing up shop? What does this look like for Corlanes? We've got staff we've got 25 people running around here. So you think their families, that's 75 to 100 people that we're responsible for putting food on their table, but also keeping healthy. And so you hear you see the social media, you hear the political side of it, you hear all this, and it's really tough to figure out what to believe, what not to believe. But so we had a whole staff meeting, brought all the staff down, and we got their opinion. I didn't want to be the one saying this is what we're going to do. I wanted to ask them, what are your guys' thoughts with COVID? What do you want to do? We had 2 people that chose to stay home because they didn't need the work. They're retired from other professions and work here for something to do, to keep themselves busy, and just for the enjoyment of it. But they said, we'll just kick back at home and relax, because we thought business was going to dive because, well, COVID's kicking in. All businesses are shutting down and stuff. Yeah. We closed the door for 2 weeks and did online sales and parking lot pickups only. And I'd say sales stayed kind of where they would have been had we been open. But then as COVID kicked in, it just ramped up. Because again, like you say, people aren't going anywhere. They aren't spending their money on their vacation. Yeah. So what can we do around here? And people get outside.
Yeah,
exactly.
We have our winter fever up here because you're indoors for the cold weather. So as soon as spring rolls around anyways,
they're ready.
Everyone wants to get outside.
Yeah.
So we definitely noticed it pick up. And then with the fear of not getting product, or the fear of, I need to protect my toilet paper, people started to buy guns and ammo. Let's start filling the safe. Guns and ammo. So, no, and then we talked about, well, okay, so now spring's done. The COVID chaos, it's been a couple months. Now things are kind of returning to a average, normal summer. Are we going to see everything taper off for winter because everybody bought everything they needed in the spring, so now they don't need their guns and ammo to hunt? Right. And are we going to get the people from the coast, because you weren't supposed to travel with people you weren't living with?
Right.
And unless you sat front corner of the truck and back corner of the truck, that's the only way you're 6 feet apart.
They're talking about making you only hunt in your management area.
Yeah.
So if you're on the island, you stay on the island. If you're in Region 6...
hunt in your area, but it was a recommendation and they didn't push it. Mm-hmm. And so we ended up with a lot more coasters up here than first we weren't sure what was going to happen compared to previous years for coasters coming up. But I'd say we had 1.5 to 2 times as many coasters come up, because this was their getaway. Get up and hunt.
And I mean, to start implying some of those laws, like you look at the island per se, like to tell all those people to stay there, they don't have an open season like we do.
No.
Right? So you're limiting those people to what is there. I mean, it's great for us. We live here where there's open tags for a lot of our species, and it would have been great. it would have been a good year for the wildlife.
Yeah.
But those people bring a lot of business to a lot of businesses.
Oh,
up
for
here,
sure. Yeah.
right? So it's a tough call. I mean, I do love seeing wildlife,
Yeah.
but I believe in people having their R&R and doing it. Just do it respectfully,
Yeah.
right? Because there are landowners, there are different
Yeah.
obstacles up here, but
Yeah.
it is doable.
And we did see a little more outcry from the landowners, and I won't point fingers at who's at fault, but landowners definitely were more up in arms about trespassing and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
again,
There's been a lot of that this year, especially on my neck of the woods.
yeah.
You just hope that they educate themselves and respect as you would want respected with as soon as someone steps onto your property,
Yep.
right?
And there you can pick up land title maps and stuff like that. Like we have the books here that you can come and buy
Yeah.
to figure out who owns what, or
Yeah.
to at least be able to reach out and call people. Whose land is this? Let's talk to them. I mean, I couldn't tell you the number of doors I've knocked on and just go in and they'll invite you in for a coffee and sit down and visit for a bit.
Yeah.
And I've been denied some, and I've been allowed on others.
On it,
but I
yeah.
mean, they're very appreciative that you came in and talked to them.
Yeah.
And some of them just want to visit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
On the other side of that coin, the outfitters didn't operate this year. Or if they did, at a pretty reduced capacity. So there is a trade-off there, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't the pressure from them that there normally is for the animals,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which can be fairly detrimental
Yeah.
because they are a little more efficient than the average guy with a backpack.
They are, yeah. They are. But they also look after. They do a lot more management, I guess you would say. Like
They won't shoot every ram that's legal up there.
their guides push for 8-year-old or
Right.
older.
Or older.
Right? When it comes to rams. When it comes to moose and elk, they are the same thing. They're looking for mature. They're not just allowing their hunter to shoot
Right.
the first thing they see, whereas like we talked earlier about sheep hunting being a premium, but when you see we go on an elk hunt and we got the option to fill 3 elk tags between the 3 of us, we're all going to shoot,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like that's the way
Fill in the freezer.
right.
Yeah.
Whereas when it comes to the guides, they're looking for that.
Well, some outfitters put a fine or a bonus. So every year that a ram is over 8 or whatever that outfitter calls their number, that guide gets a bonus, like $1,000 a year or something I've heard, and then they get a fine for every year that it's under, which is a good system if they are running
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember the number that Nathan threw out, but we've had Nathan Austin of Yukon Peak in here twice. And he was saying like last year they had, out of all the rams, I think the average age was like 12 or 13. And that's their focus. He says, we want to leave all those 8-year-olds to turn into the 12 and 13-year-old rams.
Yeah.
And I mean, he has, let's say, 14 tags to fill, and he knows how many rams are in his area.
Yeah.
So he won't take those 8-year-olds. He'll wait and hold off and
Yeah.
wait for him to fatten up a little.
Yeah, and if the government finds out that 7-year-old rams are getting killed, they might cut a quota back
Yeah.
too. So there's
Yeah.
always that, right?
What are your guys' thoughts on our timeline to sheep hunt over-the-counter tags? Do you think it's something that's going to go LEH, or do you think it's going to stay
It's a
the way it
touchy
is?
one.
Yeah.
It's I'm a very science-based guy.
Yep.
And without doing an actual proper sheep count, to me, monitoring those numbers, whether you want to do it every year, every other year, every 3 years, I mean, you have outfitters, they only get so many tags. You already know what an outfitter is going to do.
Yep.
You have to get your ram inspected from being a resident. But to me, that science isn't true. Because you can say sheep hunters, and every sheep hunter, when they go to put their finger on a map, when it gets CI'd, it isn't where they shot it.
Well, sheep hunters are the world's
So-
best liars. Right?
So that's
Secret keepers.
and,
Yeah.
but that's false data,
Yeah.
right? I mean, some might jump over a whole mountain range. Some might just only jump over one drainage.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Everybody's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So that data to me is like you shot it in 7B,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
Or you shot it in region 6,
Right.
right? You know, so but to actually put some money on the ground as far as the Wild Sheep Society wants to do it, partnered up with the government. There's other, the North Peace Rod and Gun Club participates in lots of stuff. I know I ran quite a bit of fuel up for some studies that are being done. If it can be done, I think hopefully maybe change the regs a little bit.
Yeah.
That maybe it has to be 8 years old.
Or maybe you only shoot one every 3 years or something. Like there's so many sides to this coin. You can't.
Yeah. There's lots of different ways of skinning that cat, because I mean, even if, like what John says, if you shoot one every 3 years, it's not going to stop me from going hunting every year.
No.
Because I'm going to have somebody there that's allowed to shoot one
Right.
every year,
Yeah.
but it's not going to stop me from actually going out
Doing the trip.
and going on the trip.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, 98% of my trips are a walkabout anyways.
Yeah.
I'm just going to see the country.
Yeah.
And because I want to be able to say at 60 or 65 years old that I can be like, I walked from A to Z
Yeah.
Yeah.
valleys in my area.
Have a map of everywhere you've been.
Yeah. So that's my thing, but
But not everyone's like that though. That's the
no,
problem.
they aren't. And I mean that would restrict the difference between a hunter and a killer.
Yeah.
And there is guys out there that kill a sheep every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's they're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
They've got
And
that
that's-
tag in their pocket. That's a moral thing that you and I and you choose to do. We don't kill
Yeah.
sheep every year. We can. It wouldn't be a problem, but
Yeah. So
but giving that tag over to an LEH takes that away from us.
Yeah.
So what do? If you look at the surveys and the documents, year 7's the hardest year for a thin horn ram. That's the highest mortality rate of any animal out there in the sheep world. Like they don't make it to 8 statistically. And we're targeting shooting the 8-year-olds. So really, is it? You can look at it from the other side too. Like from a trapper's point of view, you want to kill the young ones and leave your breeding stock. Do you use that mentality? Like that's, if you take 100 rams that are 7 years old, 80 of them might not make that winter. So why aren't we shooting those ones?
yeah,
Gotcha.
I'm not saying that's the answer, but
yeah, I
Right.
mean,
do we go to LEH and then limit that to 7? Like,
and to me, that's going back to there's a dozen different ways to skin this cat.
Yeah.
And that's where to me science needs to be proven before a proper decision is made.
Yeah.
And it can't be made over 1 year
Right.
because you can without there being even a study done on what's actually on the hills, you can take what the outfitters took in 2018, 19, 20. You can take what residents took in 18, 19, 20, and those are all going to be completely different numbers.
Yeah.
Outfitters took nothing in 20.
Yeah.
Does that mean that the total numbers of rams being taken was going to be in that window it always is?
but the resident harvest in 20 was through the roof.
It could be without physically seeing those numbers yet.
Well, we don't know them, but
No.
From what we've heard.
we talk to enough people that we know.
Yeah, but that's just us speculating over top of this desk, right? I
Right.
mean, then that's where, to me, science is. They're going to know how many rams are killed,
Yep.
where they came from, right? I mean, I hope they can know the age.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, a CI inspector is no different than a human than you and I.
But
You
to
know-
go to LEH, we're going to lose opportunity.
Right.
Losing opportunity, do the outfitters lose opportunity? Like the outfitters are pushing hard for areas in 7, especially in our area, to go to LEH. So then what are they going to sacrifice? Are they going to
Yeah,
get
are they
half
going to
their
lose
tags?
half their quota, or do they expect to
You're gonna
keep their
lose
quota?
half your hunters right there.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, yeah, well, I mean, it all
Hopefully-
depends on how many LEH tags it goes down to,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there would be so many speculations and differences on there that it would be.
The bottom line is that sheep hunters are growing in numbers, and the technology's growing,
Yep.
and the gear is getting better every year,
Yeah.
and access is getting better. So there's more feet on the hill. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
So something's gotta give. Like,
Yep.
It does, and I mean, we've got some proposed burns. I mean, we've had the wolf calling for the caribou, which helps all species.
Yep.
At the end of the day, we've got some pretty amazing trappers in some areas that do well for the wolf. I see more bears now than I almost do elk, grizzly bears.
mm-hmm.
You know, like, yeah, I mean, everybody's got their opinion about the grizzly bear hunting, but they're just as big of a predator that is there.
And like you said, we got to take it back to science. When the NDP and Green Party came in and overnight they just shut off the grizzly bear hunt, that was not based on science.
Yeah, no.
And now we've got the Region 6, the First Nations, that are pushing, we need to open this back up. Everyone from we'll call it the wildlife side, are stating that numbers continue to grow and they're becoming more and more of a problem.
Right.
And it hopefully we'll see in the next couple of years it open back up. But
I mean, it's and the problem is when something changes like that, you fight 3 times harder to get it back.
Yep.
So I mean, if sheep does go to LEH and numbers start thriving, you're gonna fight tooth and nail to get it back.
But
Yeah.
going to LEH and keeping a full curl 8-year-old rule isn't going to change the overall sheep population.
Well, see, and that's where, I mean, a lot of people, when they have this argument with each other, there's a difference between sheep population and book rams.
Trophy density.
And that's
Right.
and I mean, outfitters, when they can sell trophies, that's what they want. That's, you know. So I mean, I'm not saying they're the ones pushing for it, but to me, if you want a record book, you need to spend the time in the hills.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that the sheep population is going to be there? Not necessarily.
Right.
Right? So I mean, if anything's going to be done, I think it should be done off of science
Yep.
and sheep numbers, not book rams, because it's like I've seen it tweaks me, but I've seen full curl 5-year-old rams come out,
Yep.
and I tweak, I cringe, and it's like that's the rules.
Yeah.
And what could that ram have been given another 5 years, eh?
Yeah.
Even 3 years to 8.
Yeah.
That could have been a 46-inch ram.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I know some guys that shot a 5-year-old ram that was 39 inches long with 15.5-inch bases.
Mm-hmm.
What would that have been at 10, eh? Like,
Yeah.
to think, wow,
Yeah.
those genetics were stomping. That was in the 70s or something.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah, so I mean that's the argument. I mean you got sheep populations, you've got people that, well, we haven't seen anything over 7 years old or above the bridge of the nose, and it's like, well, okay, but are the sheep population, is the numbers there?
So then if you go to an LEH, in your mind, do you keep the 8-year-old full curl rule, or do you let them shoot 7-year-olds that are going to die of starvation that winter? Maybe a resident should be able to shoot one 7-year-old in their life.
I don't know. I mean, to me, if you kept it the same, full curl or 8 years old, and put a 3-year restriction in, you still have the open tag for the guys that want to go every year but will never pull the trigger. They have the opportunity that when they see their ram they have the opportunity to shoot that.
Yeah.
I would hope that it would change the wavelength of the thinkers of the killers.
Yeah.
To be like, if I shoot this today,
My tag's set for 3 years.
I'm just going on a walkabout for the next 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you hope, like, a huge thing in the hunting world is education.
Yeah.
Right? Whether you're counting points on an elk, whether you're looking at the brow tines and points on a bull moose, counting rings on a sheep, it's all education.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So if it's what it implies to educate those people to think about next year.
Yeah.
Think
The
about,
big picture.
Think about tomorrow.
Yep.
Right? I mean, it's one thing to see that, he could take a picture through a spotting scope this year and he could see a bigger one next year.
There's an old theory that says if you're willing to kill a small one, you'll never kill a big one.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that's the same with deer hunting. And if you're trying to manage a deer population,
Yeah.
if you'll shoot that 132 whitetail on the last day of the season, you will probably never kill a 190.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just the way it is. Same with sheep.
Yeah.
Because if you kill that sheep, you go into it with that frame of mind,
Yeah.
then it's done right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you go in accepting that you might come home without a sheep, or you probably will not kill a ram that year, you're coming home empty-handed because you want this class of sheep,
Yeah.
then that's how it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not everybody thinks like that.
Right.
No, and that's where I think between science and education, I mean, that's all you can ask. I mean, it goes all the way down to trespassing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all it is education.
Yeah.
That's all we can do.
Instead of LEH.
And this is from an outfitter. Like, he said, and it's true, that those 7-year-old sheep don't make it. They fucking die of natural causes.
Well,
So why don't we shoot them?
Yeah.
They're going to die anyways. Like, our rules that we have in BC allow us to grab a gun from Corlane's and book Jason and go hunting whenever we want to go, as long as the season's open. We don't wait for a draw. We don't have to group apply. Like, it's a good system, but it's hard on genetics. Bottom line. I can walk over here tomorrow, buy a mule deer tag, and I can go mule deer hunting, and I can shoot a 4-point mule deer on the last day of the season. A little mule deer like this, and I'm going to saw those antlers off, throw them under the workbench, smell the meat, and go, bull. Why would you do it? Like, I have probably the best mule deer permission around here, and I've shot 1 mule deer in 10 years.
Yeah.
And my wife shot 1 mule deer in 10 years.
It's been 8 since I've shot one.
But we have a 180-inch rule, and we don't break it.
Yeah.
And I don't, like...
it's when we're going hunting. I don't even have a deer tag.
Well, we went sheep hunting. You didn't have a sheep tag.
You're right.
I think you did that just so you didn't have to carry a gun, though.
That was too much weight.
But that's what
tag.
This is what I'm getting at. Like, we've got the best system. We've got a system that gives us freedom, which we need.
Yeah.
I want to go hunting because I self-regulate.
Yep.
I'm not a, if I want to shoot a elk for meat, I'll hunt all year for a 300 plus bull. And if I don't get one the last couple of days of the cow season, I'll shoot a cow. And that's good meat. But I'm okay not shooting that animal. Like, I'm a trophy hunter. I want, I want to hold out and kill a big animal, which I have that self-control, and some people just don't.
And it's an interesting discussion talking about trophy hunting and how trophy hunting gets such a negative kickback because people are like, oh, you're only in it for the trophy. But on the flip side, it's better for conservation because you're not tipping an animal over every year.
In BC, you legally can't trophy hunt to what some people regard as trophy hunting.
Right.
You can't saw those horns off and walk away.
And leave the carcass.
Most people think that's trophy.
trophy
And we had this conversation. Were you there that night?
I don't think so.
We had a really good conversation about that at my dinner table, and you handled it quite well.
When the wife and everybody came out.
Oh, okay.
Last year, just before Christmas, yeah.
It was, what was that night? That was before sheep show dinner, wasn't it?
It was the night before.
Yeah, it was the
When
night before.
we had...
And we had Crossan's birthday, he didn't show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's, so trophy hunting. Well, what does that mean? I'm a trophy hunter, but I still eat 11, 12, 13-year-old sheep meat.
Yeah.
I love it, and I have to take it.
Yeah.
Not that I'd leave it there anyways, but there's a huge misconception with what trophy hunting is.
Yeah. Nathan was talking about that too, that when he says they're harvesting these kind of 11-plus-year-old rams, he says he doesn't want to be harvesting the 7-8-year-old rams because, number one, they're not what the clients are looking for, but he says realistically, that's your breeding stock. When they're 11, 12, 13 years old, they're not breeding, they're not providing as much to the...
When they're 8, 9, 10 plus, they are.
Right.
But when they're 7, they're not.
Oh, okay.
They're going to be.
Yeah.
But a 7-year-old ram is physically not big enough to compete.
With
he's
the big
sexually
boys.
mature and he's ready to rock, but he doesn't hold a candle to those big rams.
Yeah.
So he fights so hard that he ruts himself to death and dies.
Gotcha.
No, and I think that, like, that, to me, that goes, like, because I take what those outfitters say pretty good. I like to trust most of them.
Yep.
Like, you take Nathan, I've never met him, but I know he's in an area that is very, it's not super pressured by resident hunters.
Right.
So he's in an area that maybe that's how his is going. Depends on his winter range.
Yeah.
Those rams might live like that. Does that apply to the rams in the Gatho drainage? Most likely not. They're more like what John's saying.
Mm-hmm.
At 7 years old, 50% of them are dying.
Yeah.
Well,
And when 50% of those move on, 50% of those at 8 years old die.
Then die.
50% of those 9-year-olds die.
Yeah.
To get those kind of numbers in that area, if you get a ram that's 9 to 10 years old in that area, you've got an old ram, right? His area might be a little bit different. The predator control might be a little bit different. Mm-hmm. The winter ranges might be a little bit different cycles, seasons. And that's where the science comes in.
Yep.
Right? I mean, you can't base it off of this area and his area. We have stone sheep on this whole area, and we need to see how this is working and where the numbers and access is huge. Right? Like you said, mm-hmm. the boots you're getting, like them old timers used to go hunting in freaking muck boots from freaking Zellers.
Yeah. The $12 gum boots.
Yeah.
the guy that got
two
me,
Reeboks.
and two pairs of wool socks so they
Yeah.
didn't get blisters.
the guy that got me into it sheep hunted in the boots that he had cut off hip waders for like 5 years. Honestly,
Wow.
I thought that was pretty high end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at some of those old pictures you see.
Denim. They got their jeans and their plaid.
Yeah.
Red plaid jackets.
Yeah, and their gum
denim,
boots.
and denim's just covered in mud and tire and grease and everything else.
Yeah. I love seeing all those pictures.
And when there's a will, there's a way. When you want to get somewhere, you're gonna get there.
Yeah.
Are you a member of Matt Cook's hunting? There's a lot of people that are posting the old pictures on that Facebook group.
Yes, I'm on there. I don't post anything, but
Yeah.
I do look at the
I like the historical pictures that go up there of the
Yeah.
sheep hunters, and then a lot of guys mock the modern camo and stuff. Look at the camo he's wearing, the red plaid and denim.
But on the other side of that, you don't need to go and spend $1 million on Kuya gear to kill a sheep.
No,
No.
Nope.
You just don't.
no, really anything that, if you want to talk camo, anything that breaks up the pattern so you're not just a solid blob helps. But I mean, again, you look at the rest of the technology that's out there, custom turrets, the rifles that are out there, how well they shoot. You don't have to be 50 yards from that sheep.
No.
You can tip them over at
300, 500,
Exactly.
600.
680. What was mine? 685 or something like that.
Yeah.
685.
So you need to
680.
carry a smaller gun. Force you to get closer.
Hence your 243, right?
That's why I pack a 243.
Yeah.
It
What were you
goes-
using?
Goes as far as my golf ball.
But I can shoot your golf ball.
So can I. Right here.
What was I using? A 6.5 284 that you guys built for me.
Yeah. Optic.
that one had a Huskama. I switched over to the Swarovski now. What's the one right there? That sheep hunter with the turret.
3 to 18
44 1 inch.
by 44.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shave a little weight off.
Shave a lot of weight off. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Back to. Oh, go ahead.
One thing I'm going to say with guns.
Yep.
So I've been a gun rep. I've been in this business like you have for quite a while. And I got talking to some guys about guns one day, and the light kind of came on. And I thought, okay, you guys, there's 4 of you guys here. And you're going down the road. You've got 2 brand new pickups. You've got trailers. You've got quads. You've got boats. You've got...
There's $100 grand in gear, yeah.
Plus.
Yeah.
200 grand in trucks there.
Yep.
You got all this gear. You got wall tents and stoves and all this crap. What are the 2 things that your kid's going to get out of that? Your gun and your knife.
Yep.
When you really think about it, everything else is pretty well
A
thrown
dull
away.
knife.
He's going to get a dull knife and a rusty gun, but
A shot out rusty gun.
they're the only 2 things that survive that.
Yeah.
Everything else, your rain gear is gone, your truck wears out, your boat's got to be replaced, your quads,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
all disposable items.
Yeah.
And when people put that much money and that much time, and I know I keep reverting back to sheep, but when you put that much time and effort, and you've been through it with us, you know what goes into it.
Yeah.
And that gun fails you, or your lack of shooting practice or knowledge
Yeah.
fails you,
Yeah.
what did that just cost you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That one moment and you don't shoot, or you have substandard.
Equipment.
Yeah. Because you can always dry your raincoat out.
Yeah.
Or you can always dry your sleeping bag or patch up your boots. But when you're holding your scope and your gun like this, and, it's not going to work, right? Like, it's
Something to be said about buying quality.
when it comes to the, yeah. And you guys both know I'm a little OCD with my shooting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Getting back to Riverjet Adventures, when it comes to clients that you're taking up the river, are you limited to, like, does the government limit the number of clients you can take up there, or a length of time, or are there any limitations?
So there is I do have a restricted number.
Yep.
That the government has issued me.
Mm-hmm.
It's whatever. I get close to it, but not really. And then I limit how many sheep hunters I take. That's another way of me trying to keep the sheep on the hill.
Focusing on conservation.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So that's, for when I take out sheep hunters, I take out guys that are sheep hunters. I take out guys that are sheep killers. I can't knock them. That's
Yep.
what they want to do.
Yep.
But I limit how many I take into the backcountry. And to me, like I said, my area covers from the Tashodi range all the way up. I can't go up the Gatho, but people can hike into there from the Tashodi or from the Musqueam
Yep.
side. I got people that hike over to the Prophet from the Musqueam. I've got guys that go from Tashodi all the way over into the racing. So it's a vast area of sheep country that they go into, and I limit how many go in, and I found a number that works for me, and I roll with it.
Well, that practice has been in there for a while, though.
The previous owner had the same practice, and it was something that I adapted and carried on with the same thing.
He kind of gave you his number. This is what I've been doing.
Well, he's a very passionate sheep guy.
No.
He loves sheep. He's the same way as you and I. He loves just seeing what's on the next ridge.
Yeah.
And that was something that he did. And it works with the numbers that for business wise. So it works for business. It works for the wildlife.
Yeah.
To me, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's a good balance.
and then I get groups that basically I can't fit all their beer in my boat. They pay their price, and like I said, I've said it before, I'll say it a million times, there's no better place in the world to sit by a campfire and drink a cold beer.
Yeah.
And that's what they do, and they don't bitch about the hunting. Their biggest thing is like, how far is firewood from camp?
And they're always handy when you got to pick them up, eh?
Yeah, and, and it's great. one of the best parts about Riverjet is every group I meet is pumped and excited because they're going on their holiday.
Yeah.
Well, that boat ride's half the fun too, though.
It is. Yeah, guys don't realize what is entailed until they get behind the window. And
Yeah.
the Musquaw is pretty bumpy and boring for the first couple hours at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
But after it gets beyond that, I mean, you turn onto that Deshody and I tell other jet boaters that you just went from playing T-ball to hitting the major leagues. And it's game time.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I put my earmuffs on. I kind of ignore what's going on. I open the top of the boat up and let people take pictures, and it's time for me to pay attention.
Focus on the drive.
There's a lot of corners. There's not room for two boats, right? So
Yeah.
you pay attention to corners and certain stuff, and I mean, I take Wayne Sawchuck does his group, and I do the switch out, and I always
On his horseback trip.
On his horseback, yeah, and I always bug his clients that I'd like the most fun you're gonna have is right now on this boat. But they see a lot of beautiful country, and I don't get to see the clients that I take in. They exit somewhere else.
Yeah.
But of the clients that are coming to the drop-off point that I take out, he sees beautiful country, but it's at a horse's pace. Kerplunk, and they see awesome country. But when you're coming down that river in a jet boat at 25, 30 mile an hour, skinning some of those tight corners, we've had some old ladies that just having a riot, having a hoot. So,
Speaking of that, Marcia's doing a wellness camp in Wayne's Mayfield cabins this year.
oh yeah,
Like a yoga retreat kind of thing in there.
How they getting in?
They'll fly into that one.
Okay. Yeah. And is she running it?
Yeah, she'll be organizing it.
Let's give it a plug. What is it? When is it?
Yeah, it's definitely coming up.
Okay.
I don't want to have any details.
Okay.
It's
Will
just-
she push that through the art gallery?
I don't know. I don't know how it's going to. It might even be pre-booked now, for all I know.
Okay.
It's,
Stay tuned if you're interested, or your
Yeah.
wives are interested in this trip.
Yeah.
We can hook you up
Yoga?
with Marcia.
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of yoga, and I don't think they're going to call it a yoga.
fishing.
Sure.
Okay, I'm
Can't see
interested.
why not.
Do you have to wear Lululemon pants?
I'm just hoping it falls right at the end of July.
Yep.
You just want to tag along for the flight.
Well, I'd be up in that neck of the woods anyway, so
That sounds pretty cool. How long are they going for?
no idea.
Perfect. We got lots of maybe we'll have Marcia in for a podcast.
I think you would be way better off
Doing that.
on so many other levels.
So back to Riverjet, seasonal booking. So you've got sheep hunters, you've got goat hunters, you've got moose hunters, elk hunters. Do you kind of have your sheep? Now, you can't be doing goats normally with the early crew. Tell us a bit about the
So, I mean,
if people
goat-
want to hunt up there.
So there's always the openers. I mean, that's been sheep hunting's bread and butter for years.
Yep.
You guys want to be in there for August 1st, right? Those are the only physical dates that I set.
Yep.
I mean, I do my run up the Musquaw, I do my run up the Deshody. John tags along, or like last year, you tagged along as
Yep.
well, and we went up, and I do my walkabout.
Yep.
So my clients are in, they're in till their dates. Then
And they kind of set dates, or do you kind
I
of tell them
set
if
them.
you start here, you're coming out here?
no, I set them.
Okay.
They're already set before I even start booking people.
Yep.
I sit down with Francis and, I reminisce over. I usually talk to a few of my regulars and be like, was 10 days too much? Was 12 days not enough? And I kind of try to give everybody a time that you got time to physically hunt your sheep, right? I mean, one of the biggest issues I have is trying to keep the meat if we shoot it on the opener or the first.
Yep.
And it's like, well, that's where your experience and your education comes in.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's the same way as a plane. They're not just going to fly in the next day and grab you.
No, you've got your scheduled
Right.
pickup.
So, I mean, some of them are willing to adapt and change. Unfortunately, with my business, I'm on a mountain somewhere.
Yeah.
So I'm out of cell service.
And for those, is that more your moose and elk hunters that you're focused on? Like if they were to drop one on opening day, now they're there for 10 more days.
Yeah, so
Because sheep, it normally takes you a little while to get into where you're at.
yeah, sheep hunting, those are the only days I booked. After the openers come out, it's kind of first come, first serve. So if you
Okay.
wanted to go sheep hunting on the 15th of August and come out on the 27th, and if and then I got elk and moose hunters that are starting to go for that because season's opened up, right? 15th or 20th of September
Yeah.
starts opening up. And if all of a sudden you're back at the river, by all means, I'll pull you out early. But your scheduled date is this, and if we change a date, the people that have that day paid for originally get dealt with first, and then I move on from there. But after the opener, it's a free for all up for dates. It's first come, first serve.
Yep.
Just ask for a deposit.
But that departure date coincides with the opening day. Like
It does.
people don't really give and take a bunch. They don't lose much by going a day earlier, a day later. It's the target's to be there on August 1.
Yeah, so like my in dates, I believe for this year, are going in on the 28th and the 29th of July. So the guys, I
Which
think,
is pretty standard.
yeah. So the guys that are doing this river get 3 days prior to opening, and the guys that are going to do this river get 2 days prior than opening, right? So it's kind of changes it up a bit, and
Yep.
each year I change what side I do first or second, and that just coincides with going along with the alphabet. So to walk trail D, E, and F.
Third lost GPS.
Yeah. So it's yeah, I mean those are the only ones I set. The average hunt is usually 10 to 14 days, right? Anybody that wants to pack, when you start getting into that 14 to 20 day range, the packs start getting pretty big, and you start dealing with a lot more extreme people.
Oh, okay.
Right? You're not dealing with the average Joes. You're dealing with the guys that are like they're looking for their ram, and
They don't care how many miles they have to put on to get it.
they're gonna go right.
They've got the time and the gear.
Yeah, and in saying that, I mean, a lot of people work a Monday to Friday job.
Yeah.
So when they book their holidays, it's from Vancouver to Fort Nelson's 19 hour
Yeah.
drive,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, you got a day at each end,
Yeah.
guaranteed, if not a day and a
If not a
half.
couple. Yeah.
So you just
add a ferry onto that, you're even further.
Yeah.
yeah, right. So you take 14 days. Now they get a 10-day hunt. And they got 2 days of travel on each end,
Yeah.
and they're back to work Monday morning,
Yep.
right? So it's, I would imagine that probably plays the biggest role
Yeah.
in guys' schedules. Is I can take 2 weeks of holidays. We can be ready to go Friday after work. Leave first thing Saturday morning.
Have a 10-day hunt. Couple
Have 2
days
days
to get home.
Yeah. So
With the gear, do you have? I'll get into a couple questions I've got about gear, but just when you're talking about having your hunters reach out to you to let you know we got one, come out early, do you have recommendations, or do you require all your hunters to have like an in-reach to be able to send messages back and forth?
I don't. I mean, that's what they feel like carrying is completely up to them.
Yep.
I've been handed a lot of different scenarios,
Oh, okay.
but it seems to be the normal.
Yeah.
Guys either are, some guys are just employees somewhere. Some guys manage businesses. Some guys are, run their own business. Some guys are retired.
Yep.
So, I mean, most of the guys set up their own kind of contact because they need it themselves
Right.
to begin with.
Yeah.
And then as far as my interacting with them, it's the guys that don't have it, I'm like, hang something bright on a tree,
Old school.
because I do offer a meat run service,
Yep.
right? If I got a cooler, available in Fort Nelson, I do a meat run service for them. So if they don't have an actual contact to text me while I'm in town and be like, can you do a meat run? Then I just
Hopefully see your flag.
I see your flag and I stop in, say hi, and if I can deal with it that day,
Yep.
I will, and if not, then I'll tell you when I'll be back.
Yep.
Right? Because I try to also make the most out of everybody's trip.
Yep.
Right? Some guys, whether they want a meat run, they have to be present to hand over that meat. Because we have to fill out the paperwork.
Yep.
Because now I'm transferring their meat, right?
Well, so the tag holder has to be.
The tag holder has to be there, right? Like, if you two are hunting and you tagged it, John, I don't care where he is.
I got to be there to.
You need to be there to sign the paperwork.
Yeah.
Hand it over into the boat. Away we go. And I try to schedule that so that when you're there in camp, that if you're up on a mountain texting me, and you're like, okay, we can be down for this day for a meat service, you can hunt up there for another 2 days. Because I might not be able to make it to you.
Right.
Right? So it tries to make the best out of your days in the mountains.
Yeah.
Right? Lots of guys want a camp move. You know, they want to...
We've been here. We've seen this.
Yeah, there's nothing
Take us
here.
elsewhere.
We need
There's
to
no
move.
animals.
Right.
Yeah.
I put them on the side of the river that only has moose, no elk. And I try to encourage them not to, because it's 2 days out of their trip.
Yeah.
That they could have been exploring that new draw that they didn't go see yet.
They could have hiked that next ridge.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so I try to encourage it not, but you know, at the end of the day, if a set of predators, the wolves, move in and shut down the whole valley, I'll do my best to try to get them into another one.
Right.
Right? I mean, there's only so much you can do, and
Yeah.
that's hunting, but I mean, I get it. It is their holiday, they paid, and you know, I try to make it the best experience possible.
Yeah.
So,
Do you give gear guides or have expectations or recommendations, or do you just kind of, you leave that up to them? I'm your transport.
I try to get them to basically look at it as a plane.
Yep.
With a few more bells and whistles. I don't have the limitations of a plane,
No.
but I want them to use their head as well.
Figure out
Right.
what you need.
Right? I tell guys usually like 500 pounds a guy. So if you're going on an elk hunt with 4 guys, and every guy, I say the average guy is 200 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're 200 pounds there. Out of your 5, if you're another 140 to 150 with your personal gear, that still leaves another 150 for wall tent, cook stove, and all your common
Beer.
gear. Yeah. Well, yeah, all that. And if guy shows up with an extra cooler full of beer, I'm taking it.
Yeah.
But as long as you follow those guidelines, then what the boat can operate at, then it makes my job easier. And it's like, all right, you got all your comforts, like, let's go. I encourage people to bring a wall tent and a wood stove.
Yeah.
But I also encourage them to get up on the mountain and hike
Yeah.
and get off the river. The wall tent, they might not sleep in it, but I've seen a foot of snow on August 18th 2 years ago, and it would have been nice to come back to a wall tent.
Yeah.
Right? So, you get guys that I have the availability to pack it, bring it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then you do get guys that pack the kitchen sink. But it's like, all right, guys, that can stay in the truck. And then they bring it, and it doesn't move in camp. And they bring it back, and they're like, yeah, we could have left that in your truck.
Didn't need to pack
And
that
I'm
all
like,
the way.
I said that.
Yeah.
But it happens. And everybody, a lot of guys get not realizing where you're going. You are in the middle of nowhere
Yep.
with nothing. There's no roads, there's no quad trails, there's no cut lines, there's nothing. And a lot of people get in over their heads, and I try to encourage that and make sure that it's well known before they get in, to be like, you are going into the middle of nowhere. There will be, like, I've had customers shoot elk right off the doorstep of their wall tent. I've had guys that pack them 14K. It's you're in the middle of the wilderness.
Yeah.
So it's a head game for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are your expectations for clients? Someone wants to book with you. I mean, I bet you've dealt with some amazing clients and some that you wish never booked, but that's just running a business. If you had to lay out expectations of what you would want to see in a client, or what?
Just take, like, when they ask for, I say this to my wife all the time, I call her an asshole. Because she asks questions, and then I give her an answer, and then she argues with me about my answer, and I'm like,
if you didn't want to hear the answer, why'd you
ask, right? So I guess with my clients is, like, it's they want all the information they can get, and I give as much as I can without money per se. I get a lot of tire kickers.
Yeah.
But take that and roll with it. I ask guys to put a little bit of their own research into it.
Yeah.
You guys want to go sheep hunting? Pick A, B, and C spot, right? Once you get narrowed down where you're actually physically going to book, when I see money deposited, all right, let's talk A, B, and C. Which one would you guys prefer?
Yeah.
They want to go into B, they got this draw, this and that, and I'd be like, yeah, there's sheep in there. There's we can get you in there. I might not tell them the exact trail yet, but I'll be like, yeah, that's a good spot. C is another good spot. A is not so good.
Yep.
So and then I get them, basically I want them to go back to the drawing board, right? I want them to be like, hey, like, can we go up this draw?
Yeah.
And normally I'll leave it as long as I can of showing actual trails.
Yeah. Well, and they have to realize you're not a guide. You're not there to guide them.
No,
exactly.
You are transportation
right.
from A.
So I tell them that, I'll put you on a trail, and I'll be like, oh, you're going to go up to this draw and up and over the hill. I said, if you lose the trail 100 meters in,
it's on you.
Own,
yeah.
Right? I mean, you can do whatever you want once you leave this boat.
Yeah.
I don't physically leave the campsite.
Yeah. I drop you off.
I drop you off. I
unload your gear.
I use existing camps because we're in that Northern Rockies park.
Yep.
So I'm trying to lessen the footprint, not making new camps.
Yep.
So I basically go into the camp. I show them some of them have meat poles and a little bit of a frame, or some of them have poles stood up over here, and I kind of just say, well, there's the trail out back and it leads up into those hills that we looked at on Google Earth. Right. So that's kind of where I leave it for the most part, help them out as much as I can without physically
helping them. Here
you go.
Well, and lots of guys know where they want to go. They just need you to get to that trailhead.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is a lot of guys want to just go to this particular spot, and if I do know a trail that goes in there, I might help you out. It depends. There's guys that, they might rub you the wrong way, and it's like, you want to muck up there? Here you go. muck away. And there's also trails that I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So I get clients that they want to go in here, and I'm like, I've never been there.
Yeah.
And there is places that I've never been. I'm only one guy.
You're only on walkabout K.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't seen them
made
all
it through
yet.
the alphabet yet.
So, I just say, well, let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
Right. And all those guys' secrets are with me.
Yep.
Right? I mean, I do my damnedest not to hunt where my clients hunt. And that's why I pick a different one each year. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3. And you know what? Sometimes there has been a few in there that I've hiked to see what my clients have seen.
Yeah.
When we did the Abbotsford show, I thought there would be more people trying to pry sheep secrets out of us, or just hunting secrets in general, and it wasn't that way.
No,
it was people just wanting to go hunting. And
did you book lots at the Abbotsford Boat and Sportsman show?
I think I got 3 or 4 groups.
Okay.
Out of it, so it was worth it. I don't think the Abbotsford show is what it used to be,
right,
from what I've been told.
The hunting corners here
it was very small,
and the rest is boats and quads. Yeah.
And a few salmon lures.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Jehovah's.
They had a booth?
No, we got Christian something.
Were they?
Christian walking sticks.
Yeah. Yeah. Something.
I
just
got
call
one.
them Jehovah's. Anyways, the
Is that where you bought the Y'all Need Jesus t-shirt?
No, that was in Kentucky at the Walmart. $4.99. How could you not buy a Y'all Need Jesus shirt?
It's phenomenal.
but
gonna
there was
wear it today and I
there
couldn't
was
find
another
it.
group of guys putting a show on in Chilliwack. They were supposed to be because I was Abbotsford was a
That was
sportsman show.
going to be in Kelowna or Kamloops or somewhere.
No, that was a different one.
There's one in Kelowna, but no, there is one in Chilliwack as well.
It was supposed to be an out.
So where are we going when the COVID goes away?
We'll see
It
what
was supposed to be that
it's running.
Chilliwack. It was supposed to be the first annual one.
Oh,
in
okay.
In
Oh, okay.
Chilliwack, and it obviously got canceled because that taxidermist that
Yeah.
he was going to go to it. So, but COVID set in right after March there, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, what should clients expect when they're booking with Riverjet? Because, I mean, I bet you that without fully knowing, they may have different expectations of what they're getting. So, what should they expect?
well, for them, they're going to get a safe ride in
Yep.
and out.
Yep.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm transportation.
Yep.
I try to give them as much knowledge of where they're going, gear, areas, different styles and tactics of hunting
Yep.
due to different seasons. Lots of guys like to come earlier in the year. Rut isn't fully set in for elk. Sheep season, it can be fairly busy on the August 1st.
Yeah.
Sheep season end of September can be cold and wet. I mean, you can hit all seasons any time of the year. So I for what they're gonna expect, I mean, out of me, I try to prepare them as mentally and physically as much as possible for where you're gonna be there in the middle of nowhere with basically just some have, an inReach, some pack a sat phone, some don't pack anything.
Yeah.
And I don't see them until the morning of their pickup. And they're great. They're easy for me. I drop them off. They kind of know where they want to go, and they go and they get.
Yeah.
They come back when they know they're going to be picked up on the 28th, and they're there the night of the 27th, and they're packed up and ready to go for the morning of the 28th.
So if someone's interested in booking with you, how early should they look at booking? Like is it just for next season, or should a person be looking a couple of years in advance?
Well, when we took this over, we kind of just did 1 year at a time.
Yep.
My wife and I, well, she does the books. I do the talking.
Yeah.
Right. I'm the guy that they're going to see.
Yep.
But my wife has everything laid out as far as deposits, the calendar, everything's done. I can just look at it on my phone and it's there. So we're starting this year. We've started booking for 2021. We run on a first come, first serve basis. So we have ongoing threads with clients that, have whatever. And these dates are available today. They might not be tomorrow.
Right.
I tell everybody that so they understand. But as far as 2022, I mean, guys normally don't book 2 years in advance. We do have a few returning clients that just know that that's their
this
their thing.
chunk.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah.
So we normally don't hit them up for a deposit for 2022 until the season of 21 would be done. Right? So we just kind of lay it here and have it there rested.
Yeah.
But we're not booked up like an outfitter, right? We're
Gotcha.
not booking. My quota's on people, not animals.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when they sell their quota for animals, and they can say, "Hey, Aaron, I can book you for 2023 for a sheep," I don't have that option, and I can scourge my numbers. Like, I only take so many sheep hunters, and if I had to run another 2 guys that randomly phoned me and it worked into my schedule, and I could be like, you know what, I look at my books and I'd be like, all right, I've only taken so many rams the last couple of years.
Yep.
With my numbers,
I can run you up and
I'll give them a kick at the can.
Yeah.
Right? Let them go sheep hunting if they come home with one. And my average is one higher than what I want, 1 year, then it's not the end of the world to me.
Yeah.
Right. I try to run with those averages to keep them there, and one here and there. I mean, that's what an average is. You're going to be higher than that to maintain an average, because there's going to be years that are even lower.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, Riverjet Adventures has not taken any rams out of the mountains.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's happened. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's hunting.
Yep.
Right. So.
Yeah. And if more people have the mindset, like you're saying, that I'm here to hunt sheep, not kill sheep, there will be a lot more, and I won't say unsuccessful, because it's not how you measure success by the kill, but it's more that the hunting experience and then
Coming from the guy who shot one on the first morning.
But now moving forward, it'll be about the walkabout
Okay.
until the big one steps out.
And we'll be stuffing things in your pack when you're not looking.
Yeah.
So are there any, on that note, are there any crazy, funny, chaotic stories or anything that really comes up in the 3 years you've done it, aside from taking John on so many trips?
There's there's always our own entertainment. That's just a given. Like I'll never forget the first year I had it. I had a group of 3 hunters coming sheep hunting. And normally sheep hunters show up with their backpack already packed, because they've repacked it 8 times, like every sheep hunter has.
Yep.
And they they usually have a tote with some goods in it and a cooler, right, between 2 or 3 guys.
Yep.
Have a bit of grub back at camp, back down to the base camp type of thing. And when these guys got in, they threw out a 200-liter water tank. And I had to ask, what's it for? And they said, a shower. And I was like, you're going sheep hunting, right? They're like, yep. I'm like, okay. Then this big abortion of copper coils and all this stuff came out, and I put it in the boat. And
Was it a meth lab?
No, because it was as clean as it came out.
Are you a
never,
Smurf?
never got used. So, anyways, that we get up and I drop them off, and they set up their base camp, and I had to ask, like, what's this thing gonna do? And they're like, well, they had a 5-gallon pail to fill up this 200-liter tank, and then had it set up to draw water off the bottom, coil, and heat. And the first thing, I'm just like, you could have just had up that 5-gallon pail and you would have had piles of water. So I kept my comments to myself, and I left, and I came back, and they got their ram. They were successful with the ram. And I said, so how was the shower? Well, we never used it. And I went, so you made me pack this thing all the way up here to look at it. And they're like, well, it didn't quite work out through. So if you're willing to try something like that, try it at home.
Yeah.
Make sure it's going to work before we're going to pack it, 100 miles up the river. So that one was pretty funny. That was a one that really stuck out, was a water tank, a 200-liter water tank for a shower.
Yeah.
So
How frickin' long do you plan on showering?
yeah, all day.
Yeah.
But there's been guys that when I say I can't fit all their beer in the boat, that's no exaggeration. There's guys that, they show up with flats upon flats, and that's their thing. And I usually,
That's their holiday, right?
yeah, that's their thing. So
Yeah. That's more the base camp, like the elk hunters setting up a wall tent and
they're not going anywhere.
up till 3 drinking, roll out about
Yeah.
at noon and hope to find an elk.
And they got fantastic grub,
Yeah.
right? Because that's what they're there for. They're there for have that fire
eat and
cooked
drink.
meal. Yeah. So, yeah, it's good that way. I mean, I run into lots of breakdowns,
Oh, yeah.
right? You get guys that broke down this and that, and they wave you down and need parts or get a hold of you somehow.
I guess that is the scary thing of being and not in your situation. Well, also in your situation, but I mean, a less experienced, hey, I just bought a used boat. I'm going hunting up here, not knowing the parts and pieces of it and stuff, and not knowing that you're in the middle of nowhere. You're not calling up the automotive shop to
No, not
shuttle
at all.
you out some parts.
That's the other thing is, guys, like, when you got to pay to play,
Yep.
right? A lot of guys get up there and they're like, well, this year I retrieved a couple sunken boats, and it can be done. I mean, whether it's insurance or somebody just wants to pay, whatever, it is what it is, but it's a huge liability when I'm hooking my costly boat to your boat that's now garbage, basically,
Yeah.
right, and towing it home.
Yeah.
There's a lot of logistics involved and whatnot to get it out, but at the end of the day, the biggest thing is the risk factor.
Yeah. And these boats that you're hauling out, what's sinking them? Inexperience or breakdowns or?
Well, it's probably a mixture of both. I mean, the one crew, they'll never know. Their boat died on them. I'm predicting that it was a fuel pump issue, and when you're loaded and you're on a tight river,
Yeah.
get that thing to shore.
Yeah.
Tie it off.
Yeah.
Anybody that's ever been in any kind of a jet boat or a canoe for that matter, if you think paddling a canoe is challenging, you don't stand a chance in a
River
13-foot jet boat.
Yeah.
Let alone a 19 or a 20-foot jet boat.
Yeah.
You're not paddling it.
What about the guys in the Sea-Doo? Remember that?
The first year I had it.
What were we were up there together. I don't know.
It was the day I came up to meet you and Marcia. And I
Jason says, I just saw the weirdest thing. I'm like, what'd you see? And he goes, I don't know how to explain it. I'm like, well,
it was a boat with a Sea-Doo dropped in it.
So you sit and steer in the middle, and it's got a boat around it.
Yeah.
An aluminum boat or an inflatable?
Aluminum.
yeah, like a
Yeah.
16-foot
Yeah.
saltwater.
And two guys sitting
Scow.
tandem like this. The driver was like this, and the other guy was
cuddling
sitting.
on the Sea-Doo.
Like it was weird, and I just ran into them, and they'd asked if they could follow me, and lots of guys do. Lots of guys ask, can I follow you?
And we're talking more the Tashodi, where we're talking windy corners.
Some guys on the Musqueam.
Okay.
Right? If
Yeah, the upper Musqueam gets pretty hairy.
Yeah, okay.
I tell them that you're more than welcome to start, but I don't look back.
If you can't keep up, that's on you.
I'm working.
Yep.
I'm doing my thing. If you feel uneasy or whatever, or if I start losing you, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Right? Unfortunately, you're not a paying customer.
Yep.
If you have a mechanical issue, I'll stop on my way back.
Yeah.
But on the way there, I'm dealing with my clients.
Looking forward.
Right? So,
Yeah.
that being said, I have been left stranded once every year that I've owned it. On my first 2 years, it was on my own. And last year, I had clients with me. And I'm going up the Musqueam, and I broke a steering cable. And I looked over at my hunters, and I said, I think we just broke a steering cable. And he goes, what? And I just went, zing, with the steering wheel. And it just sat there and spun, and we just cruised up. And a little bit of luck, and I'm going to say a little bit of experience. I came off my throttle, and the nozzle had me pointed to the right just a hair. Mm-hmm. And when I dropped my reverse bucket, it had turned me, and I idled up, and then it backed me into a bank. But with the Hamilton pump was it was enough that it held me there.
Yep.
And one of my hunters got back out onto the swim grid, onto shore.
Yeah.
And while the boat was running, staying there, I jumped up on the bow and got my bow line, and I threw it to him. I said, if you don't know knots, tie lots. So he tied a whole bunch of knots, and I just kind of took the throttle off, and the boat it went from being in the bank like this and come around and
Nice.
and sat there, and then I'm on the phone on my inReach.
Yeah.
Right, because I make a habit, I clip mine on my hip,
Yep.
because at least then if the boat goes down or something, I have communication.
Well, and that we've heard that a couple times when we had Robbie Austin, who got mauled by the grizzly bear, that was one of his fatal mistakes. As he said, we had one in reach between the two of us, and we were 40 yards apart. And when he got mauled first, and then I got mauled, and it had stroked out, couldn't move, couldn't crawl over. He's like, I thought he was dead.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get over to him to send a message. So this is where I'm going to die, because I didn't spend the $550 myself to have one too.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's clipped on my belt loop all day long.
Yep.
I do it at the boat launch, and I take it back off of the boat launch. And I got on the phone, and I have a very, very good network of people
Yep.
with jet boats that are
Yep.
capable of coming to help. And we went home that day with no steering. So
Left the boat there, jumped in with someone else.
that particular day, I had enough time to kind of get the boat ready and did some problem solving.
Yeah.
And I'm already on the phone trying to get parts and pieces shipped from here and there, and who's got what and what's available. And the motor ran fine. Everything ran fine. I just had no steering.
Right.
So I know as somebody that's done multiple tow jobs, if the boat behind you can help, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
So when he got there, I had put my nozzle as straight as I could get it from being inside the boat.
Yep.
And when I got him hooked up, he turned me, and when we were ready to pull on step, I just put my boat at like 2,000 RPM
To help him.
pull.
Yeah.
So it was a very odd feeling after putting hundreds of thousands of hours on a jet boat, and they steer in the back. Right? You swing. And now you're pulling from the front. So you're going into a corner, and he's already done his swing, but now you're like, yoink, and away you go turning, right? So it was different. It was like, oh, okay. And it took me, the way I steered was I ran from side of the boat.
Just wait.
Yeah, just trying to keep it in his wake and whatnot, and then I'd get back on the throttle, and I had the opportunity to keep the rope tight, right? So when we come down,
You could come off.
I could drop my bucket, and it was just enough of a drag that I wasn't gaining on him, but he was still pulling me.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a huge thing when you're dealing with moving water, is if he has 100% control, it just makes it that much easier.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he pulled us down, and I just happened to have another boat available, and
Your loving wife was towing that up as this all was going down.
yeah, my wife is on her way to Fort Nelson with our other boat, and the hunters, I paid for a hotel room for another night, and got them up to their hunting area the next day. So it happens. I mean, at the end of the day, it's machinery.
Yep.
Right. It's gonna happen to everybody.
And you got two boats, right?
Three.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got two big ones. I bought the previous owner's big boat off of him, and I had a big boat, and then I've got the little sport jet console that stays up there. So that's actually one of the common questions, are like, if the water drops, are you going to be able to get me out?
And with the sport jet,
that's where the sport jet comes in. Like sometimes I got to make multiple trips to get their camp back to the big boat.
Yeah.
But I'll get you out.
Yeah.
It might take, instead of being an 8-hour day on the water, it's a 10 or 11-hour day.
Yeah.
Right. But it's always doable.
Yeah.
And I tell guys, first week of October, because after that, freeze up happens whenever up here, right?
Yeah.
It could be the third week of October, but I can't guarantee that.
No.
That'd be the dream job, is the weatherman. I could lie to you every day and still get paid.
Yeah, exactly.
So
if people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of
you? Best way is probably through email, riverjetadventures@gmail.com.
Okay. We'll put that up on the screen.
And then we do have a Facebook page and a website. It's all on there as well. I try to keep a thread with guys, right? And then usually the odd phone conversation, because areas, you call this spot Dead Dog, and another guy calls it Gatho Creek, and another guy calls it whatever, First Creek and Second Creek, and it's like, all right, what are we talking about here?
Google Earth. Let's get Google Earth out.
And I've had groups that, we get going and they're like, well, this is where we're going. I'm like, no, you said we were going here. They're like, well, yeah, this is what we call it. I'm like, well, no.
That's here.
That's here.
Yeah.
And I try to make the best I do.
Yeah.
It's a big game of chess up there.
Yeah.
Right? I give the resident hunters with their own boats the same respect that I ask for my clients.
And have you had that where your client has a spot picked and when you pull up there, there's already a big camp set up there from residents, or?
I'm usually up and down enough that I know already.
Oh, okay.
Right? I'm at the boat launch. I know how many boats are there.
Yep.
I kind of know, I got a feel of where people are.
Yep.
So I kind of usually have a pretty good idea already.
Yep.
But I have had an area where I rolled into camp and I start hoofing my guys' gear out and they're all done, and I'm kind of giving here you go, this is your spot, and a boat rolled in and pulled in right behind mine, same camp spot, and asked if my guys were staying there. And I was like, yeah, this is where they want to camp. And then he turns around, he goes downstream about 200-300 yards and starts setting up camp. So I rolled in and I asked him to respect my guys the same as I would if he was there first.
Yep.
Right? I always have plan A and B with my groups, and I always have plan C in my head.
Yep.
Right? Because there's always stuff around.
Yep.
Right? So, and it's not just hunters. It's if I know 2 elk have come out of a draw, I'm not going to put you there to go elk hunting.
No.
You're just going to chase grizzly bears. And it comes to sheep hunting. If a guy's got a double header in here, nobody's going in there again.
Yep.
Right? That's me just saying, you know what, leave it alone.
Yeah. Let them grow up a little bit in there.
Well, and normally bands of rams, they don't start moving towards the end of the year. So, that they might have seen 5 or 6 bands of rams.
Yeah.
And usually you can guarantee that 1 or 2 of those bands probably didn't have anything legal in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
The younger rams just hanging out doing their thing, and if they took a legal ram out of 2 of the other ones, the odds are there might be another one, but I just leave it alone.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you very much for coming in, guys.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you guys want to throw out there for our listeners and viewers before we sign off?
No, I'm good.
Everything's about Riverjet Adventures
Riverjet.
that customers might ask.
You know what? I tell everybody, just feel free to call. Any questions? I talk it all day, every day. It's I said, it's 12 months a year.
We'll post your links to your pages, your email address. I'll grab the phone number that you want posted, and we'll put all that on the video. But we'll also put links on the Spotify description. We can put
mainly on social media.
Yeah, we can do some social media posts to push this out as well. So
yeah,
I just thought of something.
What's that?
Sheep secrets are like buttholes. Everyone has them, and sometimes they stink. That's all I gotta say about that.
It's a good
that's
end.
A good one. Yeah.
I just thought of that now.
I like it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Words of wisdom
all
from
I
John
got.
Stewart. We should write a book.
Yeah.
Adventures of the Muskie.
Yeah, be careful of the musquies when you're up there.
Yeah.
The wee people of the Musqua, they're real. We've seen them.
Is there an open season on them?
Not yet.
All right. Well, thanks again for coming in. And if you know of anyone that you think would be a good guest on Hunt Hard Talk Free, shoot us a message on social media and we'll line it up. Thanks for tuning in.